June 4th, 1990, a handshake that would change everything. South Korean President No Tae-woo and Soviet Union leader Mikhail Gorbachev shook their hands to end 42 years of Cold War silence between two nations. The price, $1.4 billion of US dollar loans to the crumbling Soviet Union. But when USSR collapsed, the Russia couldn't pay it back. Moscow's solution, sending tanks instead of money. 75 of the Russia's most advanced main battle tanks, 70 infantry fighting vehicles, helicopters, missiles. This is the story of the Bulgom Project, the world's most weird debate collection story. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the President No Tae-woo's grand strategy, Nordpolitik. Inspired by West Germany's opening to the east, ROK believed South Korea could break the Cold War deadlock by building bridges to communist nations. The grand prize, the communist leader, the Soviet Union itself. North Korea's state media was furious. They called it an anti-national crime, warning that the Soviet Union itself had sold off the dignity of socialist power for $2.3 billion. Well, they weren't entirely wrong about the price. South Korea extended $1.47 billion of loans, bank credits, and commodity shipments to prop up the dying Soviet unions. Moscow promised repayment, but then, December 26, 1991, the Soviet Union collapsed. The Russian Federation inherited the debate, and by 1995, Moscow had repaid the $31.8 million, less than 3%. Russia's message was simple: take weapons or get nothing. Current officials privately describe the terms as humiliating, a great power bullying a smaller creditor, but pragmatism won. Better advanced military hardware than worthless $10. The debate was codenamed Bulgom, the Brown Bear Project, named after the Ulster brown bear, a massive species native to Far East Russia or Korean Peninsula. In Korean perception, the bear symbolizes Russia's law, unpredictable power, an ironic name for an ironic deal. Korean military officials accepted to export junk, the downgrade systems that Russia typically sold abroad. What arrived at Bulgamport at 1996 was anything but junk. 33 T-80U main battle tanks, plus 2 command barrels, non-export versions, frontline equipment, the same as they protect Moscow. At the time of the delivery, the T-80U was the most advanced tank on the Korean Peninsula, superior to Korean's own K-1, and light years ahead of anything North Korea ever had. 125mm smoothbore gun, contact 5 explosive reactive armor, 1250 horsepower gas turbine engine, an autoloader gun-launched anti-tank missiles. A Korean officer repeatedly said, "We expected they to sell us junk, but we got frontline equipment." But the tanks weren't alone. 70 BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles arrived, a capability Korean Thai lacked. The BMP-3's combination of a 100mm gun, 30mm autocannon, and anti-tank missiles made it the only true IFB Korean service until the domestic K-21 entered production in 2029. 220 Mantis M tank launchers, 50 Igla shoulder-launched fire surface-to-air missiles, Ka-32 helicopters that would become the backbone of the Korea's firefighting fleet. And perhaps the strangest item 3 Marana E hovercraft capable of 55 knots, each able to carry a main battle tank. Total value between $500 and $700 million. Not a bad trade for unpaid debate. But the cargo ships didn't return to Russia empty. This is where the story gets delicious, literally. Those cargo ships sailed back to Vladivostok loaded with Orion Choco Pies and pot instant noodles, part of Korean's in-kind counter-payments. 팔도 도시락. Russians dubbed them the Korean burger, eating them as snacks and meal replacement. By 2023, Russia accounted for 40% of Choco Pie's global sales. Orion now operates multiple factories across Russia. The headline writes itself. Korea sent money to Russia in 1991. Russia returned tanks. Korea sent back Choco Pies. Both countries called it a win, but not everything went smoothly. Korea's initial wish list was ambitious. 54 different weapon systems, including MiG-29 fighters, Smudge rocket launchers, and killer-class submarines. Russia disclaimed most requests. You're buying tiny quantities just to steal our technology, they said. They weren't entirely wrong. The submarine deal almost happened. After Russia's 1998 financial crisis, Korea considered accepting 3 killer-class submarines. Korean Navy inspectors traveled to Russia and found them in terrible condition. Then came August 2000, the Kursk disaster. 118 Russian sailors died in submarine explosion. Korea immediately cancelled the plan. Who could blame them? The Bulgom Project's greatest legacy isn't the equipment itself. Most of it now serves as drone target practice. The real legacy is the technology transfer that transformed Korea's defense industry. The T-80U's arrival coincided perfectly with Korea's next-generation tank development. The K-2 Black Panther. Korean engineers dissected every aspect of the Russian tank and reverse-engineered it. Study of contact fiber explosive reactive armor directly contributed to Korean Special Armor Plate KSAP. In 2006, Korean officials evaluated Russia's Iran Active Protection System for K2, but rejected it. Instead, they developed the superior indigenous system KAPS, the Korean Active Protection System, successfully tested against RPG-7s and Mantis M missiles in 2012. The K2 Black Panther, now exported to Poland under the consideration by multiple NATO nations, incorporates lessons from both the T-80U's strengths and its weaknesses. The BMP-3 analysis informed the K-21 infantry fighting vehicles design. Korean engineers specifically designed the K-21s to effectively defeat IFVs as heavily armed and armored as the BMP-3. Technologies Russia provided filled gaps that the United States and Europe wouldn't share. Korea leveraged this knowledge to achieve defense export self-sufficiency. Annual defense exports now exceed $17 billion. Fast forward to 2024, Russia's war in Ukraine creates a bitter irony. In 2022 April, Ukraine asked Korea for those T-80U tanks. Seoul declined, citing the Korean-Russia Defense Cooperation Agreement that prohibited re-export without manual consent. The final irony came in November 2024. Rather than transfer the tanks to Ukraine, Korea used them as target practice with domestically developed strike drones. The T-80Us that once represented cutting-edge capability was destroyed to validate Korean weapons technology. The brown bears have been retired, but the technology they brought continues to roll in Korea's defense industry. A loan intended to draw Moscow away from Pyongyang became a technology transfer that reshaped Korean defense capabilities. Equipment designed to disrupting Western allies instead taught them Russia's vulnerabilities. From debater's dilemma to defense superpower, the Bulgom Project was when geopolitical desperation accidentally sparked industrial transformation. Thank you for listening, and this was Jun Subshin.